All right, welcome back to the last video that I have in this series of just trying to get a bit of a foundation of motivational interviewing. I hope all of you enjoyed the Dr. Phil video and hung out to watch that one after the MI Spirit. I'm gonna guess nobody gave him great grades in terms of the MI Spirit. Probably pretty accurate that way. And what I'd like to do here is I'm going to give you the last part of this kind of this basic elements of motivational interviewing. And then what I'd also like to do is maybe show you what it actually looks like in practice in a session. And I will tell you this session is a bit long. It's like a half an hour. But I'd like to at least give you an MI session to be able to look at. And then you can kind of see what it looks like to engage the client. And also, I think a very important part about what communication strategy we try to use with our clients, whether it be open-ended questions, closed-ended questions, simple or complex reflections, affirmations, which by the way, in the video, oops, sorry, on the video, affirmations really doesn't flash up that way. But I'd love to at least give you kind of a sense as to what it looks like to be doing those affirmations. And last but not least on this certainly is the summary part of it too. And this is a nice video. It's between William Miller and a client, John, who's also struggling with some substance abuse issues, some health related issues, some family issues as well. I think it'd be a nice one to watch just so you can get kind of a sense of what an MI session would look like. So I'll include that here at the end of this one. That being said, I'm not going to go through all parts of the elements of the target behaviors, this kind of thing here. However, again, nice thing about my website is if it's in blue and you're curious, click on it. It'll take you to a link and you can learn more about it as well. What I do want to get to today is just thinking about the four MI processes and where this person is at in the MI process. First thing that we always want to think about is this person ready to actually engage in the conversation? And in these cases here, when we think about this, engaging is really, have I explained my role? Do we know kind of what this appointment's going to look like? And do I have a sense as to the agenda here? And is it okay if we figure out things from here? As I engage with the person, biggest thing about it is if they're coming in, even if they're coming in court ordered about their substance abuse, I still want to ask permission. Is it okay for us to talk about your substance abuse right now today? The reason why is I'm creating that partnership. I want to do that. Is it okay if we do that on your end of it? So I'm getting permission. I'm getting that thing. You have autonomy to say yes or no to me. Again, you can see where the MI Spirit kind of gets blended into this engaging part. And the biggest thing is the client can say yes or the client can say no. Either one of those is very good answers in this engaging part. If they say no and then I continue to just bully the conversation, spoiler alert, that's not going to go well. That's going to look a lot more like Dr. Phil than it is actually going to be a productive session that way. So biggest things about this is we really like being able to have a person being able to have that ownership of that, making those decisions inside of those sessions. Critically important part of it. Next up on this for us too is focusing. And what you're going to see in the vignettes that we do is there's several different places we could focus with a client. And I will tell you in real life, that's a pretty accurate way to think about your clients. Some of these clients are going to be having possible head trauma, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, maybe some rehab issues this way. Like there's so many different things we could be focusing on. Part of what I want you to do, and we'll talk about it more during the session is what I want you to do is I want you to think about all the different things you could be focusing on with this client. And then where do you think a person is motivated, maybe not motivated, maybe that resistance discord thing is a little bit more a part of these other ones as well. You know, we're going to be thinking more about, okay, well, here's what we got. What do we need to focus on with this client? Or what could we be focusing on? Where do we think we could be making movement first with this client? Biggest part about this in my career was I was always trying to keep an eye on does it feel like we're working together? Does it feel like we are not engaging the backfire effect? Do I feel like I'm keeping an MI spirit, and is this person continuing to be willing to work this way? Can I continue to guide this person? Going back to kind of that guided style I talked about in one of the first videos. And then, have I got the right lay of the land? Do I know what to be focusing on? What is still there to that needs to be focused on, but we're not quite ready to do it yet? Maybe we do need to get to the substance abuse issues, but maybe we need to talk about sleep first because they're just not ready to be able to talk about substance abuse. And if I try to do that right now, they don't trust me with that part of the conversation. So we need to focus on something lower to begin with to be able to build up to these bigger issues. And then, boy, here's that word again. Boy, it was in the MI spirit, and here it is in the structure as well too for us, the steps. Evoking. Why is this important to you that you would make these changes? If we've decided to focus on something before we go planning it, the biggest part is by my client's own words and thought processes. Why is this important for you to make this change? Or what would be hard about this change? What's the worst thing that happens if you don't make this change? What's the best thing that happens to you if you make this change? That's that query of extremes here that's going on. Also, being very aware that I don't need to do the writing reflex. I don't. Some people want to jump in and they want to fix it. They want to fix it right away and they just want to bully the person into fixing that. I think Dr. Phil kind of did that in the last video. We don't want to do that. The writing reflex almost is guaranteed to bring out the backfire effect of the person. So in these cases here, what we really want to try to do is stay away from that part and just allow that person to explore their own ambivalence, how they feel about making this change in their life. If they're ready to go, that's great. We'll go with them on that part of it. If they're a little bit hesitant and we need to really kind of explore more of what they're ready to do and why they're ready to do it, then we take that time to explore that ambivalence, but to make that decision. That's just the bigger parts of the evoking stage. Some people really jump past this, and that becomes very, very unfortunate. Some people just want to go from, okay, we're going to focus on this, now let's make a plan. You really want to take that time to make sure you know why this would be important for this person, why they would be invested in this, and their own words as to why they're motivated. Not what I think and why I think they should make this change, but why they think they should make this change. Because that's what's really going to sustain them between now and the next appointment they have with you to do that work, to put that plan into place. Next part about this too is, again, we like to really be able to summarize for that person. You'll see that here in a second on the video. Summarize for this person and really make sure, is this something they're really ready to do? Are they ready for this next step and what this next step would look like? And that's where the fun part comes in. I always loved making plans with my clients, but a lot of times it was really making plans after we had been up the staircase of making these stages a couple times. Sometimes the person would get almost up to planning. We'd have to end the session. Next time they came back in, we may be back down to engaging or focusing. There might have been some challenges between that last session and this session. So just being familiar with this, being prepared that we don't always get to planning at the end of every meeting, I think is critically important. But that planning is great. Then we can start to identify the barriers. What may stop this plan from working? What would be a plan that we could do this way? Like starting to brainstorm. Again, that's in that guided style, that's finding maybe the options, the menu to be able to do that. What would you prefer to do? Brainstorming, I think, is critically important, and allowing them to have ownership in that brainstorming is wonderful. Negotiating out, what would that plan look like? When would you want to do that plan? In our world, and I know in so many other worlds too, SMART goals. Sometimes they get a bad rap. I will tell you in MI, we use SMART goals a bit differently. Let me take you there just really quickly. If you want to look at how MI uses SMART goals, it's right up here. It's MI session and building an action plan. When we get to planning, I will tell you, it's a Word document here. I just downloaded it. When we get to planning, we take this very seriously in motivational interviewing. Here's the sheet that this will pop up. Here's that focusing part, all the different things we could focus on. Here's that ambivalence thing and being able to check in on that. Importance and confidence rulers. I hope to get around to those maybe during the trainings here. Here's the thing about planning. So when you get to planning, here's where I think SMART goals are critically important. So being specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time sensitive. We also want to check after we develop this plan with a person, how confident are they that they could actually achieve the plan that we've set up? If they say it's less than a 7, we need to go back to the drawing board because that's probably not going to be a plan that's going to be as likely to succeed. And then also, like, just make sure we understand, can you tell me back the plan? What have we decided to do? And then when are we going to check back in on this plan? We only do that though after we've done kind of this SMART acronym all the way through. And I will tell you, I probably won't have time during the training. Achievable is the biggest one that I get concerned about. What are the barriers? What might get in the way of this? Do we have the right tools and the right resources to be able to accomplish this? We need to take time as providers, even if it sounds simple, to make sure that we do not forget about this one, just in case there might be something that could get in the way of that plan. And if things fall through, if a plan fails, it's usually because we didn't adequately consider the achievable part of it. So, okay, I'll go back on this now too. But hopefully this makes sense. This is this part of it. So I think a lot of times being able to look at this, and I think look at this next video about John. I know this is a bit longer, so you can take a break here if you want to. But in this next video, take a look and see how our therapist really works to engage John, the different places he tries to focus with John, how he uses those open-ended questions, the reflections, how he doesn't try to force John towards any kind of particular thought process. He definitely doesn't do the Dr. Phil thing. How he evokes from John what's important to John and how he can really choose to look at this either way. I really like when he says that statement later on in the videos. And then also, it kind of is finishing off before they really get to that full planning stage. But you can see in this video, the therapist really working up to this stage with John. And I don't think it would take much imagination to think about what that plan could look like or how you could start maybe brainstorming a plan with John at the end of this session. So, that being said, really appreciate you taking the time to be able to watch these videos before we get in, and thank you so much for allowing me to lay the foundational groundwork for us being able to get started effectively when we come in for that training. That being said, if you have questions along the way, if there's something where you feel like I didn't describe it quite right, please let me know during the training. I'd love to be able to clear that up. That being said, I do want to leave you with a great example of what a motivational interviewing session looks like, and hopefully this helps you kind of see all the elements I've talked about during these videos and helps you kind of see what this looks like in an actual applied setting. So outside of that, I really appreciate the time and I look forward to seeing you all either in person or virtually during our sessions. All right. Hey, thank you so much, and I will see you soon.
John, we talked on the telephone, and I understand that there was a problem at work and that you were referred here to talk about that. Before we start, I just want to explain that what we say here doesn't go back to your employer. It's kept here, and so you can use this time in whatever way you choose. But I've been asked to talk with you and see if I can be helpful to you. So tell me what's happening.
Well, I guess it was about a week ago Monday, we, meaning myself and some co-workers, got more or less caught up in a random drug screen. The company likes to pull these on us every once in a while. Mm-hmm. And just the day before yesterday, they told me that I was going to need to come down and speak to you. That they found some things in there they weren't too happy about, and so here we are.
Do you know what they found?
I came up positive for marijuana.
Okay. So there wasn't an accident or a problem or anything. This was just a random.
This was one of those out of the
event, and you got caught in it, huh?
Out of the clear blue sky kind of things, yeah.
And did you know that they were doing these, or was this kind of a surprise for you?
Well, normally they do it as a condition of employment when you come in to get a job. The random ones are kind of rare, though. And no, I wasn't expecting it. Every few years, somewhere in the company, you hear on a certain job that they did one, but this wasn't too expected, no.
So it's kind of unusual, and you got snagged.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that you're kind of angry about that.
Well, it does make me angry, and it ties into some of my feelings about my personal life, and how that I want my personal life to be my own, and that's a private thing that I'm not exactly too crazy about my company or anyone else being involved in. So I was angry when I had to go down, and of course angrier yet when they found the positive result for marijuana. Because I believe this is something that I do on my own time, in my own life. I don't do it at work, and it's an intrusion into my life.
So it's none of their business, really, in a way.
I don't feel that it is.
And doesn't affect your work as far as you're concerned. This is something that's apart from that, happens in your private life, and really the company has no reason to be concerned about this.
I don't think they should be. I won't go as far as to say that there's never been an occasion where a little excess partying on the weekend hasn't caused me to be miss an occasional Monday here or there, or maybe to be a little tired on any given day. But I don't use drugs on the job, and so I still feel that it's my business.
So whatever the effects are just like carryovers from a weekend or special occasions, and might cause you to miss a Monday, might cause you to not work quite so well on a day, but using on the job is not something that you have done.
Right.
And it sounds like you recognize a little bit that the company may have a legitimate concern in that you would miss a day or be a little less efficient or something, but in general, this is your business. In general, this is your life and your choice.
That's a pretty good description of how I feel, yeah.
Yeah, okay. If you're willing, I'd like to know, I guess, a little bit about the drug use patterns, just to tell me how that fits into your life, what kinds of things you've been using, what kinds of things you've noticed over the years with regard to your drug use.
Well, marijuana has always been, ever since I was in high school days, I guess, a pretty, I won't say important part of my life, but I guess in a way it is an important part of my life. But it's been a pretty steady thing that I've enjoyed for the last, 10, 15 years since I got out of high school, or I probably started early in high school. I don't use probably any more or any less of that than I did back then, so I don't see it as a big problem. There's other people who do see it as a big problem, obviously, but to me it's just another way to blow off a little steam after a long day of work, or if I'm doing something relaxing on a weekend, something like that. That's why I use it. And there's always been a little bit of fooling around with a few other things, but I think I've kept that in pretty good under control, pretty much. And so I just see it as part of my recreational life.
So really it's not something that you have worried about or wondered about at all. It sounds like there are some other people who have worried a little bit, though.
Well, one is my wife, who is, always on the safe side of everything. She's, she smoked a little marijuana in high school herself, and when we first got married, we smoked
together
a little bit. But she's kind of gotten away from it, and so I guess that more or less entitles her to nag me about it now. But so there's some resistance from that department, for sure.
And that's how it feels to you, that she's nagging you, that like your employer, she's intruding into your private space and what really isn't any of her business.
Yeah, well, I mean, in her case, I'll allow that maybe it's a little bit closer to being some of her business, but like she had something to say the other night when I got back from playing cards with my friends, which I do every Thursday night. She had something to say about that because she knew we were partying, and at that time I felt like, what does it matter to you? So in a sense, she's got some claim to having some concern, but on the other hand, it's a little bit of a pain in the neck for me to hear it all the time from her.
You do think what's behind it is concern for you?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. and she has some reason for that, as you can see it, but it also feels annoying to you that she has that concern.
Yeah, I mean, her concern comes from she's getting on this bandwagon now. A lot of her friends are starting to have kids, and she's starting to think, you know, she's looking down the road and trying to envision, you know, the perfect little family setup. And, you know, so I think her, you know, I'm not quite ready for that. I think it's coming at some point, but I think her concern's motivated by that. And so, you know, I think she's entitled to it, but it still seems to me to be something that I just have to constantly deal with.
So having a family, having children is something you want to do, maybe not as soon as your wife does, but it's in the plans for you. It's somewhere down the line.
Oh, I imagine, yeah.
And since she's thinking or wanting that to happen a little sooner, she's concerned about this a little sooner, perhaps, than you would be.
I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. So, let's suppose that you were planning to have children in the near future. I mean, I know that that's not what you want, but suppose you were. How might that change your own sense of your drug use?
Oh, well, I suppose if, you know, if we had a baby today, I'd have to take another look at, you know, how I'm living my life, and you know, I admit there'd probably be some adjustments I'd have to make.
And why would you do that? Why would you make a change in your drug use?
Well, number one, for one thing, even though I still insist that this is none of anybody's business but my own, once a kid comes along, then you're even more tied into your monthly bills and making sure your well-being as far as your income is taken care of. So I'd be a little bit more concerned about something happening at work, like what just happened. You know, I think if I play my cards right here, I'll probably get through this all right and keep my job, and everything's going to be all right. But I don't know about, you know, if this were ever to happen again, so there would be that concern. And, you know, I guess I would have to admit, you know, I think somebody bringing up kids should probably have his you know, concentration on that, and not be running around, you know, spending money on substances and partying with their friends as much, you know. So maybe a little bit of a different lifestyle might be called for.
Which in some ways is part of what you don't want to give up, I sense. Yeah.
Not right now, I don't know.
And that's another thing I wanted to ask you about. What are the things that you like about the drugs that you use? What's good about those for you?
Oh, I don't know. You know, when I get together with my friends, it's just become so much a part of what we do that, you know, it's hard to stop and say, well, what do I like about it? I just like the feeling. You know, I like the way, you know, marijuana in particular makes me feel. You know, we'll go off and, you know, whether it's a card game or we'll go to a baseball game or whatever the heck we're doing, you know, or camping, you know, fishing. Sometimes I'll go camping or fishing with my friends, and, you know, it's just part of the relaxation, you know. We'll smoke a joint, you know, kick back, relax. I just like the whole feeling.
So it's really mixed in with having a good time with your friends and partying and maybe getting away from the hassles of everyday life.
I'd say that's pretty much what marijuana does for me, yeah.
And then you said there's some other drugs also. What is it that you like about those?
Well, you know, I'll use a little cocaine here and there, like I had mentioned, and, you know, a few other things on a much less regular basis, let's just say. But I don't know. It's hard to describe. I just feel some kind of need to really blow off steam sometimes, I guess. And my working life is a very high pressure one. I'm responsible for like 15 guys that work for me. I have to take orders and respond to a heck of a lot of pressure from my superiors, and it's always in terms of getting things done and meeting deadlines and getting all the paperwork in. They don't care that I was out there getting the job done, and they turn around and say, well, where was all the paperwork? You know, it's one of these deals where, you know, I feel like I'm ready to explode sometimes from just the pressures that my working life brings me, and you know, I just like to blow off some steam, I guess would be the best way to put it with those things.
So you have a lot of responsibility. The job you have, you're working with a lot of people, you're overseeing a lot of people. You've got not a family yet, but you've got also a marriage, and you're responsible there. And in some ways, this is a pull to feel free of that, at least for a little while, to feel free of that responsibility.
Absolutely.
And that's, I hear there a little more than just partying or having a good time, because you said need, that there's a sense of it might be hard to deal with all that if you didn't have these drugs to use, that in a way you need those to break the tension, to get away from the stress and the responsibility.
That's true. I mean, that's how I've been, you know, using those substances all along now for quite a while, and you know, I can't envision not, you know, so it's hard to say how I would function if I couldn't or didn't.
So you're a little bit nervous about how you'd get along if you weren't using these things to blow off the steam, to let down.
Definitely.
Yeah. You mentioned marijuana, cocaine. What else? You said there's some other things too.
Well, every once in a while, for a while there, I was on the road and I did a job out of state, and the guys I was staying with up there were all into, this was actually going back about a year, we're all into heroin, and you know, there's been a lot in the news for the last couple of years about how heroin's kind of come back, you know, and I was never really into that stuff in high school or anything like that, but...
Well, that's really changed.
Well, it has, and it sort of, I have to admit, it got my curiosity going a little bit. You know, my own personality is, I'm like, I'll try anything once and see if I like it, you know. And so it kind of got the best of my curiosity. So, you know, to be thoroughly honest with you, and I'm assuming that our conversation is confidential
yes,
here,
it is.
and it won't go anywhere. For the last year or so, I've used heroin off and on, let's just say, but you know, a couple times a month, something like that. There's been a little of that, and I've used speed on occasion, but it doesn't do much for me. I don't really care for it too much. So if there's like nothing else around and somebody's got it, I'll do it. But that's about it.
But in terms of getting away from it and stepping out of your stressful life, stepping out of the responsibilities, what heroin does has been more attractive than what speed does.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
I always kind of like tend to call them mini vacations almost.
A drug vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your own reflection on that? In high school you said you know, you weren't into heroin. Marijuana was there. That's kind of continued. And now you find yourself using heroin and speed and some other things. As you step back and look at yourself here and say, where am I going in my life? What have you thought about that?
Well, I guess at one time I was pretty much anti anything other than marijuana. You know, I had taken that attitude. I'd taken that sort of approach that...
That's where you draw the line.
Right,
Yeah.
because, you know, at the time, you know, all the people that were advocating that we shouldn't use drugs of any kind would always say, well, it's going to lead up to something stronger and all that. And, you know, me and my friends were always like, oh, bull, you know, we smoke our pot. Don't bother us. We won't bother you. And don't tell me that, you know, I'm going to be laying in the gutter next week hooked on some other kind of drugs, because it's not true. And I still don't know if I believe that's true or not, but it has caused me a little bit of doubt in myself to sort of have had to change my philosophy a little bit to make room for that now, because I've sort of, you know, tried to forget about that I used to say that.
Right.
Because now here I am, you know, indulging in some of those things, and so it's caused me a little internal conflict, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm asking about. And I really appreciate how honest you're being and how you're struggling with this with me. But But there was a line that you drew and said, okay, that's where I'm going to stop. And then you stepped over it, and you stepped over another line and another line, and that was what I was asking about. Are there moments when you say, gee, where am I headed here?
I guess there are. There are a few moments where I'm wondering, not so much that I can't envision the kind of life that I want to be leading in another year or so. I'm just wondering, how am I going to get from where I am now to there? I keep thinking that when the time comes, everything's going to take care of itself. And I'm still not so sure that's not going to be the case. But I don't know.
Yeah, I hear a confidence that if you were to decide that you need to make a change here, if you're having a baby, for example, that you could make that change. You feel pretty confident that you've got that ability within you, and it's more that you haven't seen the need of doing that yet.
Right.
And in some ways, don't want to see that this is the time, because it's a letting go of something that was dear to you.
That's true, because part of what concerns me, or what my fear is about that, is that everybody wants to tell you that, well, once you've passed this sort of point of no return, that you've got to completely radically change your whole life, and that you're never going to be able to even have a beer again, and you're going to have to put down all your toys completely, and this kind of stuff. And so in a sense, I'm kind of afraid of what changes I'm going to need to make, or what someone's going to make me do to try to get to where I can keep things cool with a family and a job and all that kind of stuff. Those are what my fears are about that.
That someone would make you make that change. Yeah. I mean, what you say is absolutely true, that it is up to you. No one makes that choice for you. No one can make that choice for you. Even if your wife wanted to decide for you, or I wanted to decide for you, or your employer wanted to decide for you, nobody can. It really is completely your own choice. How you live your life, what you do about drugs, where you're headed. So that is yours. And what I hear you struggling with is, what do I want? Is this time for me to think about things? And is this drug test a little wake-up call?
At first, I didn't think it was a little wake-up call, to be honest with you. I was
just angry about it.
My usual mindset is to, take it on as just one more little thing that's in my way of getting to my goal, like anything on the job or anything else in my life, and just get through it and bang through it. But I have to admit, it is, once you wind up seeing the hoops that I have to jump through now just to get back to square one with the company and everything like that, and not to mention get things back together with my wife, as far as, she didn't react too badly to this, but she's not exactly terrifically happy about it.
What's she concerned about?
Well, she kind of used the drug test situation that I'm in right now as an opportunity to bring up all of this, and she's not completely aware of everything that I do on my own time as far as substances, but she's aware enough to where she decided to use this as a time to really turn up the heat on her concern on all of this. So
I think you really could choose to see this either way, that what's happening here is other people are stepping into your life and trying to take control of you and make you do things you don't want to do. You could see what your wife is doing is that way. Here she's taking advantage of this opportunity now to tighten down on you. Your employer is making you do things you don't want to do. And it sounds like you also, looking at it another way, see that's concern, that they have some reason for concern, and what they're doing is saying, I care about you, and I'm worried about this. Your employer on the telephone to me said, we don't want to lose this guy. He's very, very important to us. And so what I was hearing from them was that same kind of concern.
Well, my usual obstinate way is to try to put concerns like those in within the framework of that these people are just on my back. Because there are plenty of things that my wife wants to, you know, and when between a husband and a wife, there's always a little bit of power struggle going on at any given moment. And, you know, I thought at first she did want to try to gain the upper hand on me with this. And, you know, my boss is a great guy, and he runs a pretty good company, but, you know, he's a businessman, and I've made him a lot of money over the years. So, yeah, I know he doesn't want to lose me. But, you know, on the other hand, I do admit that there's some human concern there too. You know, I mean, I know they care about me.
From both of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me see if I've got a picture of where we are so far. We're really just getting started here, but what I've heard so far from you is this drug test has, first of all, caused some concerns about work. You don't want to certainly lose your job. You don't want things to get messed up there. Somewhere down the line, you're thinking about having children, and at that point, you're thinking you're going to need to make some changes, at least down there, if not sooner. This has caused a little bit of friction in your marriage, which it sounds like is pretty important to you, and that's a worry to some extent. And then also is this stepping over lines, that you've set a limit for yourself, and then you've seen over the years you step over that and find a way to make that okay for yourself. And then you step over another one and find a way to make that okay for yourself, and you think, well, is this really what I want to be doing? Where's this taking me? Is this going to be okay?
Yeah.
In terms of making a change, though, in that, a worry is how would I deal with this very responsible and difficult life I have if I don't have this to help me blow it away, to get through it, to take a little vacation from it.
Absolutely.
What thoughts do you have about that, of other ways in which you might be able to deal with that level of responsibility and stress without using chemicals?
Well, whenever I've said that to anyone, like, you know, when I talked about it to my wife, or, you know, I talked to my parents about the same thing. My parents are also people who've, they're not obviously as keyed into the range of what goes on in my life as far as, you know, using drugs as my wife is, but they've always felt that I've indulged a little bit too heavily over the years too. And I mean, people like that, I know they care about me, and they're full of suggestions, and I have not really been able to incorporate any of those, you know, changes into reality. You know, I mean, they all say, well, you can blow off steam by doing this, or by doing that, or by exercising, and, you know, all these kinds of things. And I don't know, I'm almost skeptical. I am skeptical that those things can successfully take the place of what I do now. And, you know, I'm afraid of, you know, these things that I do now are part of who I am, really, in a way, and I'm a little bit reluctant to thinking about just trading them out for another whole set of things that I do just to try to keep the lid on.
There are lots of people with lots of ideas about how you could do it. You're not too convinced about that. And more than that, the drugs, as you've stepped over these lines, the drugs have somehow become a part of you, and it's almost like giving up a part of yourself in a way to think about changing from this. It's offensive to think about that, because it's like sacrificing part of who you've become.
Right, I feel like in a sense I'm not being true to myself almost with that, but the external forces want me to make those changes, and I don't want to give up what I am, who I am. You know,
that happens, and it keeps coming up, the you versus the external forces, and it's one way to think about what's happening, that there are all these folks out there trying to make you change something that is really a part of you and that you have a right to hang on to. And looking at it that way certainly then makes you want to feel like I'm not about to give this up. I'm not about to let go of this and sacrifice this. This is mine. I'm going to keep it.
Right.
And thinking that way, then you feel entitled to what you're doing. And I've also heard from you another way of thinking about things, which is looking at this as something that maybe you would want to make a change in for your own life, for your own interests, for your own values. And I would guess that which way you're thinking about it, you would feel different ways about it. One is, damned if I'm going to give up this stuff for somebody else. And then when I hear you talk in another context, it's, maybe this really is something I need to think and do something about. But what would I do?